Right, g'day everybody, welcome back. Today we're going to do a new gun day yet again. It's pick up a another little 22-250 on the side. It's a nice little project rifle I've picked up, and it's a Weatherby Mark 5. So I think you'll agree it's a pretty nice little project to start with. And I've been on this one since before Christmas. I've had little bits and pieces of goes at it. We've purchased wrong rails for it. This wouldn't fit, that wouldn't fit, because I went like a bull at the gate and didn't look at anything. Hence, your continuity's not real good in this one. You'll see different haircuts, different shirts, different clothes, different hats, different drinks. That's the way it goes. This has taken me bits and pieces to get all the bits and pieces together over the Christmas New Year period, and some of the stuff you just can't find for these rifles. You've got to hunt for it everywhere. So, but anyway, we've had some success. It's come up really well, and I hope you like the video and get something out of it. So sit down, strap in, shut up, let's go. G'day everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got new gun day again. How good is that? This is not a new gun though. This is a second-hand rifle I bought off a friend of mine from work. Okay, not a big fan of second-hand rifles, particularly in the smaller calibers. This is a 22-250. Particularly in smaller calibers, because you can get them. You can get one where the barrel's been shot out or whatever. And like the bigger calibers, I bought a second-hand 270 on a punt, and it turned out real good. Simply because you don't use the bigger calibers as much. These ones you can shoot them out, but we'll see how we go. All right, so I'm happy with this one. So we'll have a bit of a talk about it first and see what we got here. In front of us, we've got a Weatherby Mark 5. So we're starting with a really good gun, really good rifle, straight up. Weatherby Mark 5, it is, as I said, shaded in 22-250 Remington. It's in the synthetic stock, but being Weatherby, it won't be a rubbish synthetic stock. It's got the heavy, thick varmint barrel, heavy profile varmint barrel. It's 22 inches long, and it's got a blued finish, as you can see. Now all the bluing's still really nice on this rifle, and I had a really good look over it, so I'm happy with that. There's very little cosmetically wrong with this at all. Now they are fitted with a 5-round internal floor plate magazine. You drop down to the little action thing on the back there. Now that is as stiff as a board. Now look how shiny that is. That's never been touched by human hands, I don't think. So I don't think this rifle's done too much at all. So we'll put him back up there. And, yeah, look at that. That's a bit difficult to get back in there. It's done so little. So we'll have to get him back in off camera. It goes back in, we'll be right. Okay. The bolt on these things has a 54-degree bolt lift or bolt throw, so it barely comes past the horizontal. So you don't need really big high rings to keep your hands away from between the bolt and the scope, etc., etc. So that's another good thing the Weatherbys have got. It's got a 2-stage safety on it, as we can see here. Now that can only be cocked. It can only be used, when the rifle is cocked. That's safe, but that locks everything. Can't use the trigger, can't use the bolt, can't use nothing. Stand it up to fire, bang. There we go. And there is a cocking indicator. I'll recock that. There is a cocking indicator behind at the rear of the bolt there, so you can just see at a glance that the thing is cocked. Okay, it's a standard Vanguard trigger, and in this trigger there is absolutely no creep or take up, whatever you want to call it, at all. None at all. You're right there now. That is as smooth as butter. That's beautiful. I love that. I will not change that. Now, specs. The overall length of the rifle rather, is 1070mm or 42 inches. The overall weight, as it sits here with all the jujo on it, is 3,924 grams, or a dot under 4 kilo, which is 8 pounds 10 ounces and a bit. So there we go. Now this one came fitted with an older style loophole VX3 scope with a duplex reticle, and it is a 4.5 to 14 by 50 scope, as you can see on the really big front objective lens there. And you've got the standard loophole, the loophole STD type standard rings and bases of that. And the problem with these, as you can see here, you can't get the scope quite back far enough. That's even when I get on this, is a bit too far forward for me. So, quick look over the rifle. Now, that's a really nice rifle to look at. Nice recoil pad. Don't really need that with a 250. Nice Monte Carlo stock. You have a really good cheek weld with that. Floor plate magazine. He doesn't want to go, does he? He's stiff. Nice flat base again on the fore end of the stock, so that'll sit nicely, and a couple of sling screws which I will get rid of. So there we go. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull this thing apart and I'm going to clean it, and it's going to get a real good clean. So I've got a good baseline to start with to set this rifle up. I'm going to give these rings and bases a flick. I don't like them, and I've got a Nico Sterling Zero MIO pit rail and a good set of Vortex Pro Series rings to put on this, and that'll get the scope up far enough wherein I can move it back a little bit more appropriately for me. So I'm going to pull this beast apart. We'll have a look at it. Right, here we go. All stripped apart. A little bit of work, but that's the way it goes. We'll start from the top. We've got the rings and bases, the little scope screws and that. They're gone. Forget them. Barrel, nice heavy contour varmint blued barrel. Now you have a look at this. You have a look at this barrel. There's not a mark on that. There's not a mark on it. There's not a scratch, not a ding, not a dent. That's lovely. That's as good as new. That, you know, just look in the receiver there. There's no marks in any of the little raceways there. So no, that's as good as gold. I'm happy to say this rifle's done not a whole hell of a lot. Magazine box, again, that's as clean as a whistle. There's not a mark on that, not a mark at all. So there we go. Now that's our loopholed VX3 4.5 to 14 by 50 scope. I'll have a bit of a yap about that before we put it all back together. Bolt, nice standard Weatherby bolt. If you have a look at the bolt face, that has done nothing. That has done absolutely nothing. You know, there's not a wear mark. Nothing's worn in. Nothing underneath is worn. There's no consistent wear marks on that, which indicates to me that this rifle generally hasn't done a whole hell of a lot at all. Okay. Now I've looked down the bore of this of the barrel. It's a bit dirty. That's not the end of the world, but it looks good. It doesn't look like there's any major dramas in there. We've got our floor plate. That's all nice and metal. That it may be a little bit of plastic in there, but I can't seem to find any. Your magazine spring there. That, as I said, it's as stiff as a board. That's shiny as new. So that's hardly been touched by human hands. I would imagine. These little beasties sit under the action screws, between the action screws and the stock. They fell out. I hope there's only 3 because there was 4. I've lost one. But I have to find out where they go. Never seen anything like that before, but I'll work that out. Now, the stock. This is where it gets really interesting. Again, the recoil pads, sling screw studs are going to go. But nice big bedding pillars there. But if we have a look at the top side, this is when it gets nice and interesting. Look at that, big bedding block. That will all sit, the whole receiver, all sits in that, nice and snug, nice and bedded nice and solidly. All pillar bedded, everything bolts down to something that's to solid, and that will give you that much consistency. It's not funny that you've got a real head start with these. You don't get this in cheap rifles. You just don't. You know, no bedding required there. We haven't got to put the resin on that or bed that. That's fine. Whack that straight in. Whack that straight in where it goes, and that's going to sit nicely and just is going to give you consistency, shot after shot after shot. So there we go. Synthetic stock, but by no means a cheap one. We haven't got the hollow front like the other manufacturers have got, where it's just like a little crisscross and it's all thin and hollow, and that's supposed to brace it. And some of those ones you can almost turn them over 180 degrees. They're that loose and flimsy, and that becomes what it becomes with rifles. You get that. You've got to be able to, if you lose the cheaper rifles, there are ways around it, but you've got to be able to sort of live with that, and that's fine. So we'll We'll just give this a really good clean up now. We'll get rid of the sling swivel studs, and we'll come back, we'll put it all back together. Rightio, welcome back. Finally, we're here. We've got the whole rifle back together. She's good to go. We've got the action screws screwed down to 55 inch-pounds as per spec, and we've got the Trigger Tech trigger breaking at between 2.5, 2 and 3/4 pounds, around the 2 and 3/4. Look, that's fine with me. That's really good. These Trigger Tech triggers they're something else. They're really, really nice, and that's your factory trigger that's fitted to these Mark 5s. So there we go. We've got everything good. The fiberglass stock's all fine, all laid up. Everything's still floating. So now we're going to fit the rail and the scope to it. Now this is where things got interesting. Right, went out, bought myself. Didn't research anything. Didn't look into anything. Thought I knew everything. Yeah, wrong. Firstly, Weatherby is a copy of How's a copy of a Weatherby. So I'll just go 22-250 Howard, short action, going by short action pick rail. Wrong, don't fit. If we have a look inside the magazine there, can you see that? We have a look inside the magazine there, you see a spacer behind the back of the magazine. Like the tickers, these things are all long action. Oh well, fair enough, we can live with that. We'll go out and we'll buy our Howard long action pick rail. Yeah, wrong, doesn't work. Everything's different with these things. The Vanguards are what is the cousin of the Howards. Everything's interchangeable with those two. These Mark 5s, they're their own tomato altogether. Could not get a pick rail for this for love or money anywhere. Every gun shop that I could possibly think of, I tried. No, everything's on back order. The world's on back order. I found one at Australian Tactical Precision, located in Jurral in New South Wales. They mailed me one up. I initially ordered the wrong one, up and back. Finally got one. A 0 MOA Weatherby pick rail. A lot of dicking around. This will be worth it. That's fine. So that's the one we're going to use. We're going to put our Vortex Pro Series rings. I have a spare set of these floating around. Our Pro Series medium height scope rings. In that we are going to hang our loopholed VX3 4.5 to 14 by 50 scope. Clear as a bell, lovely scope. First loophole scope I've ever owned. I tell you what, not bad. And that's one of the old ones. These blokes will laugh at this. Nothing wrong with this. That'll go for a million years. That's fine, and we'll cover it with our standard X Hunter neoprene scope cover. So I'm not going to bore you watching me do this because that's about as boring as dirt if you ask me. So I'll get this together and I'll get back. Okay, done and dusted. We're back. It's up. It's running. It's ready to roll. Okay, so we've got the scope. We've got the rail on. Finally got the rail that fitted. Rail on. Rings on, scope on, everything torqued down, lined up, bore-sighted, ready to roll. Okay? Pardon me. Now, I reweighed this thing, and as she sits in front of you, no ammo, obviously, 3,910 grams, or 8 pound 10 ounces. Okay, so again, not the lightest gun in the world, but by no means the heaviest. Very comfortable to handle, very comfortable to carry. I could see myself having good fortunes with this thing. They're an absolutely lovely rifle, these Mark 5s. I've really got a good thing here, I think. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this one here with all this COVID and that. And I've had the COVID. Yay. With all this COVID, all this other shit that's going on, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get out to a range. So I'll knock this one off here and I'll do one from the range. So until we meet again, as I always say, you can tell your wife, you can tell your girlfriend. Hope she hasn't got COVID. Tell everybody. Give COVID to everybody. Who cares? Just go 2 clicks up. Ta-da.